am so excited about this. This thing right here, CW Word A6677. Do that. If you haven't done that, you should go ahead and do that now because, man, we want you to be on this journey with us as a gathering. And I love the opportunity. I love the opportunity that it's not like me telling you to do it or John telling you to do it, but it's people from our church. We want to do this together, to be in step, to create this space for us to have together, to be in the Word, and to be anticipating Easter, not reacting to Easter, right? Sometimes we just like get there and it's like, oh man, oh yeah, God. No. This is a chance for you and I to anticipate this as a gathering, to get our hearts focused toward what God has done for us, and to get in the rhythm of just being in His Word, and that makes me so happy. It gets me so pumped up. And I'll be honest, when there's a good rhythm to life and good rhythm to things, we just notice, everyone notices when someone has rhythm. The person that has the most rhythm in my life is my wife. She has more rhythm than me by a long shot. And we had the opportunity, let me tell you a quick story. We had the opportunity about like the 1st of January to go to a UTC basketball game. Her parents, for one reason or the other, are season ticket holders to UTC basketball. And so they said, hey, we'll take your daughter. We have an 8-month-old daughter. They said, we'll take your daughter and you guys go to the game. And so we did. And one of the reasons we wanted to go to the game was it was UTC versus ETSU. Both our alma maters were playing one another. And the other part was one of my wife's former students, she is a sugar mock, one of the girls that dances at the games. And so we wanted to see Tori. And so we went to the game, and you know, the UTC did not do well, but go Mocs. But the cool thing that happened was that we kept trying to get Tori's attention, and she would be down there dancing. And every chance that we could try to get her attention, we'd wave at her and do something stupid, and nothing happened. But we just had a great time at the game anyway. We were enjoying ourselves. And then somewhere toward the end of the game, the announcement came on. He said, hey, folks, stand up and dance with us. Whoever dances the best gets a free dinner at Taziki's. And that's when I looked at my wife and said, honey, this is your time to shine. And so she's like, I'm down. And so, because we didn't have dinner plans, but we did then, because Taziki's, it was on. It was Jen versus the UTC Roundhouse Arena, like all of us. And so she got up and they began to sing or play the YMCA. And it was like beginner round, right? Because she's like, is this all they're going to play is YMCA? Because the kids can do that because it tells you what to do. And we can do those things. So she was doing fine to the YMCA. Then they kicked it into higher gear. They began to play a song called 1-2 Step, and Jen was like, yeah, that's my jam. And so she just started moving and doing stuff, and I stayed in my seat because me dancing is the loss of any contest that would happen, right? It would be like, no, we can't have that on camera. We can't show that. So I just stayed in the seat. And before long, the cameras noticed my wife, who was dancing so well. She really was having this great time, having a blast. And so the cameras caught her. And they saw me, and I was creeping further out of the camera and just letting her dance. And she was doing so well, and she was rocking it out. And then I looked down at the court where Tori, the dancer, was down there, and she had quit dancing and was just stopped with her jaw on the ground, staring up and saying, that's my coach. Like she's like, that's my coach. I know her. And so she stopped dancing, and and Jen, she won the contest. Come on. And so, yeah, we got some free Taziki's that night. And I thought that's where the story ends, that Jen won the contest, because the guy came and he gave us the Taziki's thing. So that's the easiest decision we've made all year. She did so great. He gave me the Taziki's thing, and we're like, we're going to go get dinner. And I thought that was the end of it. And as we're walking out to the car, I got a message on Facebook Messenger from one of the wives of one of our elders. which simply stated, hey, I saw your wife tonight at the basketball game. Seemed like she had a great time. I was like, yes, she did. It was great. We're going to go enjoy some Taziki's, and that was it. And I thought, okay, but that's where the story ends, right? There's nothing else. And then Jen called. We ate Taziki's, and we were leaving, and Jen called her dad to say, hey, we're on the way to pick up our baby. And it wasn't like, hey, Anna Kate's been great tonight. Everything's been going great. Or, hey, be careful. The traffic's bad, or whatever. No, it was, hey, you look like you had a great time at the game tonight. Good job dancing. And it's like, how did you know? How did you find out? Well, there's this thing called ESPN. Yeah. ESPN3, they stream the games live. And so Jen's dad watched the game. And at the end of the game, they show the credits at the end of the game, and they'll have like a guy dunking the basketball, somebody steals something, and they show maybe a clip from the halftime show, and then the coach yelling, and that's the 30 seconds. This end of the show was 2 seconds of a guy dribbling the basketball and 28 seconds of my wife dancing on ESPN3. And so we're like, okay, well, that's where the story ends, because everybody notices it's good. But then the next week or so, I was at Ottawa High School. Coach Williams lets me go and do some devotions for the boys basketball team. And so I came in to talk to the guys. I walk in the locker room, and one of the guys is like, hey, I saw your wife the other day at the basketball game dancing. That was really good. Then I had to explain to all the basketball players why my wife was dancing at a basketball game. And then I thought, well, that's it. But then one of my, yeah, thanks for laughing, because I thought it was done. One of Jen's mom's coworkers heard about Jen dancing. And they said, well, that makes sense because I saw this tweet. And Gene Henley from the Chattanooga Times Free Press says, the lady in section 112 dancing during the timeout deserves a Little Caesars pizza or whatever they give out during timeouts, a t-shirt or something. Everywhere where I went, that was a story. Everyone notices when you're in rhythm, right? When you go to a wedding and there's people that are just dancing, having a great time, man, you notice them. It just stands out when a band is together, playing well together. It's a good thing when people's lives just seem to flow and go. We notice it. We're a little envious of it. And some of us, we think that we have rhythm. And we really don't. We're not that good at life sometimes. There's just things that are happening. We think that we've got together. We think we got all the kids' schedules worked out. We think we got our class schedules worked out. We got all this stuff. And we try to move in rhythm. And we think in our heads, we're doing great. But honestly, we look a little bit more like this. This is what we have going on. I think it was described, I don't know if I can say this in church, but it was described on the show as a full body dry heave. Like, that's what happens. And a lot of our lives just look that way. I mean, come on, think about it. Think about the pacing of your life. Think about the pacing of your life, that it can be so overwhelming. We have students and adults that talk about stress, and I heard someone say that the students really feel stress. I think so, because if we ignore it now, they won't know how to deal with it when they're older. Right? But there's stress everywhere. We see all these places, all these things in our world where stress is happening. We think about your schedule. We think about, man, what about your relationships? Trying to keep up with your relationships. How many people have you looked at your life that, man, I need to call them, but man, I don't know when I have time. Or we're just trying to figure out our work schedule, and we're working one job, maybe two jobs, some people maybe three jobs, just to keep up with bills and keep up with all the stuff that's coming in our lives. We think about our relationship with God. It's like, well, if I read my Bible enough, have I done enough things for Him? Do I need to do so much more? What am I doing or not doing? Am I doing the right thing? We're thinking about our New Year's resolutions right now. Probably not. I just made everyone feel really bad in church. That conviction, condemnation thing just came back. It's like, oh, no. But we have this thing where like New Year's resolutions, by this time of the year, 86% of them are done, out the window. We start with good intentions, and the last thing we want is really one more thing, right? We get this laundry list that just pushes us forward of all the things we have to do, and it stresses us out. And when someone asks how we're doing, we say a 4-letter word, not the one you're thinking. We say this one, busy. When someone says, how are you doing? I say, I'm busy. I'm busy. And that is the go-to for us, right? We like to say, well, how are you doing? Man, life's just busy right now. How are things with the kids? Life's busy right now. How's school? It's just busy. And this word somehow just pushes us on by. It's like this stamp of approval in some ways. If I tell someone I'm busy, it must be good. But when we evaluate our lives under the crown of and the label of busyness, we begin to look at it and we're out of rhythm and we're anything but attractive in how we live our lives. No one wants to be a part of that. And I think this morning there's opportunity for us to lean in a little bit. I think there's opportunity for us to understand that I believe that God has a rhythm, an intended rhythm for our lives. And He's calling out to us. He's desiring it for us. And we miss it so often. And I want you to think about this morning. I want you to hear my argument because I think if we can lean into that just for a moment, to hear His voice, to listen for His voice, to make space for Him, we'll see our lives change. In Psalms 90, it was a psalm written by a guy named Moses. It wasn't one of David's psalms, it was Moses' psalms. And Moses has this crazy life where there's so many things. He was the prince of Egypt. He was alone out in the desert. He has all this stuff. He led 2 million people, if you think about stress, 2 million people through the desert for 40 years. That's a long time. That's a lot of stress. And he pens these words, and check this out. The Psalm 90, verse 12, he says, so teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. So teach us. He's pleading out to God, teach us. And we hear the word teach. Teach implies a few things. The first thing that teach implies is this, that we have something to learn. That we have something to learn. We all have something to learn, but I guarantee you, if you're like me, you're not very teachable. Because I'm not. I buck up against things. When someone tells me, hey, do it this way, I'm like, I don't know if I should. And a lot of us, here's the thing, we know we might be off, but we just want to do our own thing. But we have to have a teachable spirit. We have something to learn. And here's the deal. I think a lot of us really want to do something well. It's not that we're not trying. I just think we just do things that we just kind of load up our schedule, load up our lives. But we know there's something in us, something doesn't feel right. It kind of feels like when you're folding up a fitted sheet. Anybody in the house with me ever fold a fitted sheet before? And you watch the video online, you watch your grandmother do it, and they're like, man, it looks so easy. And you do it, and it's like on top of your head. You don't even know what happened. It looks worse than when it even started. You should have just threw it back in the dryer, let it figure it out. Because we don't know how we just don't know how to do it. We don't want to be teachable. Our life feels like out of sorts, out of way. And here's the thing. We can wear that label of busy. We can wear that label of busy and still be wrong. And one of the worst things we can do, the biggest waste of our life, is to be really good at the wrong thing. And we have to find ways for him to teach us. And that's the next part. The next part of this is that we have one who is willing to teach us. So we have something to learn, but we have one that's willing to teach us. And honestly, the greatest sign of love, the greatest show of love from someone is someone who is willing to teach us when we don't want to be taught. All the teachers in the room say amen, because you've done it. You've sat with that child that just doesn't want to do what you've asked them to do, that doesn't want to learn. The parents have been in the room that said, no, son, do it this way. And they just keep doing it the other way, and you want to give up, but you keep teaching them. Our God wants to teach us. He loves us, and he comes beside us in the moments when we just don't want him sometimes. But because he loves us, he wants us to live life at his pacing, not ours. We like our pacing, but it's crammed full of too many things. Ladies in the room, I'm going to step on some toes. How many planners do you own? I have a meal planner. We have my husband planner. We have my work planner. We lay out all the calendars in the room. Men, you maybe work off your Google Calendar and you cram it full of so many things. We got to stop for a second. We got to listen to his pacing. And I tell you, I'm not good at pacing. I'm not good at pacing like small things. Like earlier, you guys were clapping. This is how it starts for me. I don't know if you guys do this, but I start on time with it, right? I feel pretty good about 4 claps in. And then I just get off. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to blame any one of you in the room. I think it's just me. I'm the one that throws all of you off. Because there's a moment where I'll be clapping. Eventually, I'm just like, okay, Lord, I just surrender to the song. Just surrender to the rhythm, God. Because if I keep doing this, it's not worship anymore. I've got to throw my hand up because I can't do it. But this morning, I've got somebody that's going to come out. And he is probably one of the more rhythmic people I know. He does not dance, so do not ask. But he loves music. Guys, if you would give me an unrhythmic clap to bring out Josh Doremus. Josh, come on out for a second. Now, Josh, I love Josh Doremus because we are blessed as a church to have Josh as our worship leader. Yeah.
I'll cry.
What, you're going to cry?
I'm gonna cry now.
Okay, Josh, this is what we're here to do. This isn't even about rhythm. This is just to make you cry. No, Josh, you really, though, I love your heart for worship, and I love how you present that and lead us as a church. And so thank you so much for doing that. And you love music. So tell us, Josh, why is rhythm so important?
I think rhythm makes a framework of the song. Like, it makes it make sense. Like, if there's no rhythm, then everybody's doing their own thing.
Yeah, that beat, that consistent beat kind of helps hold things up. So, I don't know, how did everybody do clapping this morning? Was that?
Man, y'all killed it. Okay, 3 of you killed it. It was great.
No, we don't do so hot at clapping, I know that. But you guys, even if we're off, do really good. Now tell us, what's your secret? Is it like this, something you drink in the back? Is it some magic potion? Like, what's the deal?
It's called Red Bull.
Red Bull?
And coffee. It's a weird mix.
Yeah.
No, so we have this awesome thing called a click track.
What is a click track?
It's kind of like a metronome.
What is a metronome? What is a metronome, Josh?
Well, it sounds a little bit, I think we have a clip. It sounds like.
Okay. You hear that?
Yeah, we hear that.
Like
the whole time.
How, where? What does that, how does that even work? Please make that stop. Like, that's annoying. What?
So we hear it, we have it in ears, and we didn't invent these or anything. This is A lot of people do this.
So I see like people like on like a concert on TV, like they'll have those in
Yeah,
there,
like,
and they're hearing
Britney
that.
Spears, probably.
Britney Spears, yeah. I think of Britney Spears than you. You're right there. Like that's where it goes.
I just need.
Yeah, no, don't do that. So here's my question. Is that one more question? Is that what you hear in your just the click, or is there anything more?
Yeah, so there's a click, and then there's a little lady, and she's real nice, and she'll say like verse 2, 3.
So you know like when to go into a verse or any of that
Right,
stuff.
right.
That's crazy. So why do you need that, Josh?
Okay, so the tendency of musicians, okay, I'll just say for me, I don't want to talk bad about everybody else. The tendency for us is to either speed up or slow down. And most of the time it is to speed up. And when that happens, it happens at like this, usually like a hype point in the song, like the music's going, we're talking about maybe Jesus resurrecting, and it's just an exciting part of the song. And that's not the only time, but that happens a lot. And so we'll tend to see us to speed up a little bit. And then the problem is everybody speeds up at different tempos. so having that click track kind of brings us back together.
Yeah, okay. So that click track's going, but I'm gonna be honest, man, like if I'm hearing that happen and a lady telling me to do stuff, does it just get annoying?
Yeah, especially if your first time listening to it, it's the worst. But the cool thing about it is when you're in time with it, it almost fades away. Sometimes if you're right with it, you don't hear it. And then when you do hear it is when you start to speed up. Oh, I hear it. I'm coming back.
So that click track, you only just hear it just when you get off typically, once you're used to it.
Yeah, once you're used to it.
Yeah, so man, I love that because it keeps everybody online. It helps us to clap along with you at a somewhat rhythmic thing. That's good. Josh, thank you so much that you care that much about worship because it's not just there for a show, but we want to do it together and we want to have structure for it. So thank you, Josh. Everybody give Josh a big hand. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks,
so
man.
much. What I love and what he said was that idea that even when it's going, even that click's going, that voice is there, you only really notice it once you get off because you're just flowing with it. You're in the middle of it. You're just going for it. And I think that's what it looks like for God. God is sometimes his voice can be annoying. Sometimes we think his voice, like we hear something, we're like, well, I know I should do my time with God, or I know I should be doing this thing in my life, and we just don't, maybe I shouldn't make that choice about my work schedule or whatever else. And we get annoyed by it. We push it away. But what it's trying to do is pull us back in line with him to a place where it's like, oh, man, this is good. I'm in the right groove. And you're like, well, Matt, what is his rhythm for us? What is this click track? What is this magic thing? Because I just sit in my room sometimes and listen, and all I hear is the cat next door, and I don't even know what that's about. So what is that for us? And I think Scripture lays it out very easily. In the book of Psalms, there in Psalms 8, it talks about how he hung the universe and the moon and the stars in space. You guys been watching the moon happening, right? Isn't that crazy? Like, that doesn't happen on accident. There's a timing and a pace of that. God's trying to get our attention through the stars and the universe and the comets and all the things that we see, all the things that we explore. And in Ecclesiastes 3, it talks about there's a time for everything, a reason to rhyme, a time to mourn, a time to cry. God is the perfect pace setter for life. And we see this, check this out, in Genesis chapter 1. This is kind of where I think it begins. It says, then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. And then it goes on, it says, God called the light day and the darkness night. And evening passed and morning came, marking the first day. And evening passed and morning came, marking the second day. And evening passed and morning came, marking the third day and the fourth day and the fifth day and the sixth day and the seventh day and the eighth day. And today the sun rose, did it not? And last night the sun set, and it was beautiful last night. It's amazing to see. I believe God is trying to remind us that he is in control because he is. I believe he's trying to set pace for us in a way that we don't get because it goes from evening to morning. There's a part there, I believe, that we've kind of flipped on its side a little bit. I heard a pastor talk about this. He says the thing that concerns us the most often are the things between sunrise and sunset for most people. The things that fill our day, the things that, honestly, we have the least amount of control over. When you walk into work, how much control do you have over your boss? Not very much. When you walk into a classroom, how much control do you have over your teacher? Or teacher, how much control do you have over your students? Like, there is this thing We try to figure out that space so much. We sweat that space so much. And the time that we actually have to try to reel in, we waste. The time between sunset and sunrise. And studies show that we are a generation of people who get less rest than any other generation in the past. We sit with our phones in our hand at night. We have a glow that keeps our mind going. We try to keep up with everybody else on social media. We stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning. We get up at 6 in the morning, and then we try to go and do our day. We wonder why we have anxiety. We come home from work, and we're so stressed out, we just want to sit and watch SportsCenter, or we just want to watch Netflix for the next 6 hours and just let whatever's playing there. We forget to have conversations with people. And most of all, we forget to have conversation with God. The one who's setting pace for us. The one who by an act of nature, the sun setting, saying, hey, calm down, slow down. That we just keep rushing through it. And I sit in the room as guilty as you are. The time that I have to give God, I give to myself in ways that are wasteful. And I think God is trying to remind us that we have to slow down, that we need to step into something. And he realizes that we're going to push too much into the beat, just like Joshua was saying, that we'll get ahead, we'll get excited, we want to shove too much in there. He actually created laws to remind us. In fact, when God created the earth, on day 7, what did God do on day 7? Anybody remember? He rested. When God made man on day 6, man's first job was to rest with God. His first job was to sit and look at all that God had done because God was done on day 7. It wasn't because he was tired, it's because he was done. His work was complete. And man's first job was to sit and look at that and see, look at what God's done. What would our day look like? If we were to sit in the end of the day and say, God, look at all you've done. What would it look like for us if we were to wake up in the morning and think, God, look at all you've done for me. Look at who you are. In the midst of my circumstance, in the midst of my trouble, you are still faithful. I mean, God created laws where, in those days, because he knew how people would be, that every 7 years, fields were supposed to be at rest. A field, nature needed to rest for a little bit. He knew how we would be, that he created a law for his people early on. It was called the year of Jubilee. Every 49 years, if you owed a debt, if you had been enslaved in some way, if you lost your property because of a bad business decision, whatever those things are, the year of Jubilee was a year where everything went back to how it should have been. It was a reset. God knows that we're going to pick up too much stuff. God knows that we cram too much into our day. We do so many things, and we need to reset and be reminded of who he is. Every day, every moment is this click track of him saying, I'm right here. Listen to me. Slow down. Step in time with me. Be in time with who I am, not just all the things you do. Now, in Matthew, because sometimes people are like, well, that's all Old Testament stuff. What do you have for me from New Testament? Did Jesus ever talk about this? He actually does. In Matthew chapter 11, he shares some incredible thoughts. He's teaching to his disciples and teaching to people, and he's giving, the way Matthew is laid out, the next chapter goes into all these religious leaders, how they have been treating people. But Matthew 11:28, it says this. It says, then Jesus said, come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. He's crying out to us, the people that are just continually putting more stuff in their lives. And that's where these people were. And they kept trying to keep up with all the rules, all the things, everything that the government was telling them to do, everything that the religious leaders were telling them to do. They just kept pushing more and more and more. And he says, come to me, all you who are weary, and carry all these heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. But his rest looks different than how we look at rest. Look at this. This is the next verse in 29. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. I love that he still has work for us to do. His rest looks different, because the first thing he says, let me give you rest, is take my yoke. That means there's going to be work to be done. There's going to be some things to do. But he says, let me teach you. Remember that. That was the cry of Moses to say, teach us. And he says, let me teach you. Slow down for a second. Let me teach you. Why? Because I'm humble and I'm gentle at heart. How many of us need this? How many of us need this? Where we just run and run and run, and we feel more like Elaine in that dance. We're like everything's just shoved in, and we're just trying to make it through our lives, and we keep pushing and pushing. But check out how the Message takes this verse. It says this: are you tired? Are you worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. He's inviting us in. Get away with me. Make space, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. It's not a sit back. And it's, hey, I'm going to lead you. I'm going to come right beside you. Work with me. Watch how I do it. And I love this last part. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. The unforced rhythms of grace. That there's not this pressure that he's calling us into. But there's a pacing he's calling us into. There's a rhythm he has for our lives. There's a rhythm he's calling us to. In the stress and the worry and the fear, there's a rhythm he's calling us into where our life can feel unforced. But we have to make space for him. And when we make space for him, all the things that we piled up for that badge of busyness that we love to wear, that we love to declare to people, like, man, look how great I am. Look at how busy I am. All that just melts away when we realize what he's done for us. That our God, who created the heavens and the earth, who spoke it into being, who's so strong and so mighty, who gave his life so that we could have freedom, that all the burdens and all the things that weigh us down, that by him coming to the cross, all the anticipation we have going to Easter, if we wait till Easter to get excited about that, we've missed the point of Easter. If we wait till Easter to invite someone to church and to live a life that's attractive, man, that's right now. He's calling us into this rest, into this pacing. I love music. I'm not great at it, but I love it. And my daughter, when I try to rock her to sleep at night, I often play songs, and it's not like lullaby songs. I play like Johnny Cash for her. I don't know if that's okay, but I do. And one of the songs I've been listening to lately is from his album, My Mother's Hymn Book. And there's just some old hymns in there, and one of my favorite ones is probably one of the least manly hymns out there. But it's an old one. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called In the Garden. And here's a lyric. It says, he speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing. And the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy that we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. That's unforced rhythms of grace. That's a God who's calling out, and we don't slow down enough for him to say, I love you. Slow down, listen to me. I've done these things for you. I have a life intended for you. Slow down. But sometimes how we view God can skew all that. We don't see him as this peaceful, loving God. In fact, I've got this little thing here. This is what Josh was talking about earlier, a metronome. I actually knew what it was. I was just trying to see if Josh knew. And here's the thing. This is a little metronome, and this is my sister's metronome. I grew up with this thing in my house. My sister is incredible. She's an incredible singer. She's an incredible piano player. And she was one of the reasons why I didn't play piano as a child. Actually, it wasn't her fault. She was amazing. And this metronome, I tried to blame it for a while because it does. It sounds like that. And you can imagine as a child, like, that just sounds scary. Well, here's the deal. The worst thing with this was I associated that sound with her piano teacher. And her piano teacher was a drill sergeant. No, literally, he was a drill sergeant. When Desert Storm came, they called him up and he went over to Iraq and fought. He was a drill sergeant. And the way he ran his piano teaching class was like a drill sergeant. And I would walk in as a little kid. I would walk into that piano, into his office, and he was in the office playing with my sister and playing this music, and I could hear the metronome, and I could hear him yelling and stomping his foot and trying to keep her in time. And it scared me because he's a drill sergeant, right? And I think this is the thing. We associate the sound of God's voice with negative things. We associate him with these rules and regulations, and we miss the part where he has a rhythm for us, that he loves us. And if our view of God, we can say that we love him, we say that we think of him well, but if we don't give him space in our lives, what do we really think about him? Because the people we care about we'll give space to. The people we love, we give space to. The people that we know care about us, we give space to. And I'm fearful. I'm fearful that some of us hear his voice and associate it with something negative. And this morning, I want to strip that away for you. I want you to hold on to something greater, because I think God has something greater for you than this pace of life that just keeps pressing and pressing and pressing. That's not what he's saying. He says, come with me, dance with me, play in tune with me, walk with me. Because when someone's in rhythm, everyone can tell. And God's desire, our chief end on this earth is to know God and to make him known. And if our goal is to make God known, then our lives need to look like his. It needs to be in time with his. Because people can look at our lives and say, if that's what it means to be a Christian, I don't want that. If that's what it means to follow God, I don't need that kind of stress in my life. And that's how they depend on him. It doesn't mean that life isn't difficult. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect. But it means that he has a rhythm to draw us back to. Psalms 37, I love this passage because it makes room for our mistakes and it shows us the love that God has for us. Psalm 37, check this out. It says, the Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Who do you know that delights in every detail of your life? Like every detail. That annoying thing that happened at work, every detail. That quirk you have that just drives you crazy. He cares about every detail of your lives. If you knew that someone cared about every detail of your life, would you not want to spend time with them? Would you want to create space for that? And he does. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights. He delights in every detail. In every little moment of your life, every fear you have, every scared thing you have, every anxiety-filled moment, every single part of your life he cares for. And he delights in it. He wants to know it. Will you share it with him? The next verse, 24, says, though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by his hand. The idea of the stumble there is that we're going to mess up. We think somewhere in our world as Christians, we have thought in our heads that I've got to have a perfect life and I've got to show everybody how perfect it is. It's like me at the game with Jen where I'm just kind of backing my way out of the picture because I don't want to be seen. Because I'm not perfect. It would have been really awesome for me as a husband to stand beside my wife and dance like a crazy person with her. We would not have won Tzatziki's. I understand that, right? But to be with somebody who's in rhythm, man, how powerful is that? And I would stumble, I'd mess up, but she'd still be right there beside me. And for us, we have to understand that God has a desire for our hearts that is greater than what we get and than what we understand. That even when we stumble, it's okay. Even when we stumble, even when we're not perfect, it's okay. We have to create space to learn. We have to create space to lean into what he has for us. We have a great opportunity as a church over the next, as a gathering over the next 28 days, as a group of people, to really begin to create space together. To pause our lives for a minute and create space for him. And I'm telling you, like when you get this text in the morning, it's going to be incredible, and you're going to look at it and you're going to think, I want to go back to sleep. It's okay. It'll be there. And to read this passage and to be able to share that with somebody else, I want to encourage you to do two things. I want you, the first thing is for you to be humble. For you to be humble, for you to step into what he has for us in the Word and just be humble. Let him teach you. Be teachable. If you've read these passages a million times, sit with it for a minute and ask God, teach me something here. Be teachable. And then the second thing is be hungry. Want that time with him. Create space for that time with him. Don't rush into it. Don't go crazy, but create space at the beginning of your day, at the end of your day, maybe both those times, for the next 28 days. And it's not a magic potion, but let him teach you those unforced rhythms. Let him be that voice in your ear saying, slow down, listen. Let him be like that click track that keeps calling us back in time, keeps reminding us of where we need to be. We need to slow down. Slow down and listen for him. And step into that timing that he has for us.